Hello everybody and welcome to another Transformers third-party knockoff review. In today's video I'm taking a look at the NBK-02. This is their second offering and it is a bootleg version of Generation Toys Navvy, which was based on the Transformers Constructicon Scavenger. Quick look at the back of the box. We've got a picture of him in his bot mode and his arm and vehicle mode, and you can instantly see there are some colour changes which I'm not a complete fan of, but we'll get into that when we take a look at the actual figure. And here he is out of his packaging, and it's much the same as we got with their version of Scrapper. He is made of a cheaper plastic. It's not quite the thickness and consistencies that we got with the Generation Toys version, and of course there are some very different colour changes with this guy. He does roll quite nicely though. He's got some nice wheels on the bottom here, and again, like their Scrapper, he has been quite highly simplified in comparison to the Generation Toys model. Now, I'm not really sure what people's reactions are going to be in regards to the scoops, etc. They seem to have kind of reversed most of the colouring. If you look here, we've got the green wheels as opposed to the purple wheels, and bear in mind that this guy does have the Toy Hacks logos and labels on him, so there are some differences with the decals, but we've got this nice frosted orange, I guess, in comparison to the clear blue. You know what, the scoop and everything, etc., it does work quite nicely. All the pistons work, and it doesn't feel as cheaply made as their Scrapper. It does feel like there's a little bit more consistency in the plastic. It does feel a little bit thicker. We've got these hand sections as well. It's the first part of the limbs that they've given us. Now, although the robot himself is made of a thicker plastic consistency, the arm connections are somewhat fragile. This did unfortunately crack the first time I took it off the figure. This section came off quite nicely, but unfortunately this didn't. I'm going to have to glue that. It should hold in place quite nicely, but again, you shouldn't really have to glue any figures. I know these are cheap as chips, but that's not the point. Anyway, this does transform much the same as the original. We do have actually quite a nice hand in there. The fingers are very nice indeed, very articulated, and they actually feel quite nice. They actually feel pretty much on par with the Generation Toys versions, actually. It's just slightly unfortunate that I'm going to have to glue the forearm section in place, because there is no ratchet joint in there. It's just a friction joint in there for the forearm, but it actually worked quite nicely. All the detailing is on the outside, so you can actually move the rocket sections up. You haven't got a great range with them, but they do move slightly up and down on both sides to give the appearance that they're going to launch from the forearm. I don't think I'd be able to bring them any further around. Judging by the fact I snapped this off, I'm not really going to try it. Just for those who are curious, the original does fit very snugly on there. There's no issues there at all. The joints, etc., are all exactly the same. Although it is a little bit looser than the original, the joint still works and it's still compatible with the Generation Toys figure. Now, I had somebody moan at my Scrapper review saying I missed out loads of the transformation. Guys, I didn't miss any parts of the transformation. Now, please bear in mind that this is not Generation Toys. It is a simplified version of the Generation Toys. They have cut out most of the transformation. Detailing-wise, you can see that we've lost some of the detailing on the treads. They've kind of filled in these panel sections here. We lose some of the sculpted detailing on the back there. The top section is different. It actually covers up the head section as well, which I kind of like. I like the fact they're giving him a sunroof as well. But yeah, it's mainly all of the sculpted detail. You may notice I'm struggling with this guy. I'm fighting with him. Nothing seems to really peg in as amazing as it should. Things tend to keep popping out. It's just the nature of the beast, I'm afraid. You're buying a cheap knockoff of a third-party figure. They're not going to have the same sort of QC, and there's a reason it's cheap. I do like the second cab section as well there. They've converted this section into a second cab. That's a nice little touch. The detailing on the scoop, etc., that's still pretty much the same. With regards to the chest and crotch section, we've got this solid plate here, whereas this was kind of the hinged section. So there are some subtle differences weight-wise. Minus his fist, he weighs 180 grams. That's about 6 ounces. Whereas comparing that to the original Generation Toys version, he weighs 214 grams. That's 7.5 ounces. And before I get him transformed up, let's just take a look at him alongside Scrapper. These two do look nice together. They've kept this same green throughout, same sort of greys. The purples are the same, and this yellow seems to be consistent throughout their figures. Right, first port of action for the transformation, we can just separate these sections here. If they haven't already come untabbed, then just untab the arms from the tread sections here. This whole section is going to turn around, split the leg sections, bring them around, rotate them, and the crotch comes down and tabs in together at the center. Rotate the feet around, bring down the heel spur, fold down the tread section on the front and rear of the legs, remove his gun, bring the torso up and over, and that's going to tab into these tabs just on the side. Open the arm and reveal the hand, closing that section off. Rotate the outer arm around, fold that section up, and bringing it down, tabbing it into the forearm. Bring the shoulders up, squaring them off. Open up the chest section, bring up the head for a nice head reveal, and then close this section off, tabbing it into the neck. Now, I was never a fan of having the fists attached, but you can keep those on if you didn't break them throughout the transformation and have them out as the wing section. We have him all transformed up. I actually really like him. He looks a lot nicer than I was expecting. The purple really does pop on this guy. Not a fan of this big chunky grey chest there, but the arms, everything looks tidy. The legs, very similar to what we got with the original. Very nice indeed. The heel spurs are a little lackluster. He does tend to want to drop backwards. Articulation wise, the head can wobble around and go left and right. It does tend to pop off this section here. It doesn't really want to stay located into place. We've got some nice light piping coming through the back there. The shoulders can come up. We can go around. We have a nice bend at the elbow. That is pretty much the only ratchet we get in this, and it's a very soft ratchet indeed. The fists are static, but they do rotate. We get some waist rotation. We don't get any ab crunch on this guy. This is all part of the transformation. We just bring that chest forwards, but it's not really a crunch. The legs can come out to the side this far. You can forcibly push them, but I wouldn't advise it. Kind of come forwards, kind of come backwards. We have an upper thigh rotation. We can kind of move the thighs up and down. The crotch sliders seem to have a mind of their own. They are a nightmare to actually tab together. You can't seem to really locate them very well. They slide down. But the leg itself actually gets in the way. They do tend to keep popping apart, which is not really ideal. We get a very large bend at the knee. I like this grey hidden section here. This is a nice little touch. And the feet, they can go all the way round. We've got some nice pivoting there. This heel section can also rotate forwards and backwards and flip up and down. So we can get him in some pretty dynamic poses. But I just can't guarantee how long he'll stay like that. Here I have them both transformed up together. Now, because they didn't, in terms of simplification, they didn't simplify it as much as they did with their Scrapper, then the height difference is really non-existent. Although with these big colour changes, they do look like two very different bots, don't they? I actually really like the head sculpt on this guy, and I like how the greys and the purples look. It's nice. It's different. It's not going to be everybody's cup of tea. There's going to be a lot of people that's like, well, that's not even remotely G1 or anything accurate, which is very true. It is very true indeed. But it's not a bad figure, and it's a very affordable option if you're looking to army build, for example. Who's to say that Constructicons weren't at one point the norm? They built loads of these Constructicons, but Megatron influenced what we know now as the Constructicons, and they joined the Decepticon army. They could have been like some sort of construction bots from Planet Constructor place. I don't know, but it's not that bad. It looks quite nice. Here he is alongside their Scrapper. They've made vast improvements. He definitely feels more value for money than their Scrapper. I mean, the height difference really bothered me with Scrapper. He's much too short. They oversimplified it, in my opinion. But yeah, I think Scavenger does look a lot more presentable and passable as a half-decent figure. Now, for the purpose of the combination mode, you want to just move the head down. We want to rotate the waist back around. This section is going to come untabbed. And we're basically going to fold it all back up again, almost as far as vehicle mode. So that means putting the hands away, like so. Don't worry about these sections yet. We don't have to move those back as yet. So again, put the hands back inside. I do love the simplified transformation sometimes because it does make my life a lot easier when doing a review. There's nothing worse than having to transform something and it takes about an hour to transform it, and then if I have to do it on camera, it's even more annoying. Say that in the nicest possible way. It's just very time consuming, and I don't have a lot of time. Right, we want to bring the arms up either side, untab these sections and bring them back over. They're going to come up and tab in to the top of the head section there. Bring these legs around, and we're going to tab this section in like so. Bring this leg around, and we've actually got this knuckle section here at the front. Now rotate the hook section around so the digger scoop is now at the rear. The tracks peg in to the side of this purple section like so. Securing it all into place, move these sections out of the way, and then we can bring in our fist. Bring this section down. Now it's a lot looser than what we get with the official figure, but it's still a nice solid ratchet. And balancing the forearm section on there precariously, there we have one Gravity Builder TF Engineering NBK-02 arm. It doesn't actually look that bad at all, does it? Albeit it's about to fall apart. I really need to go out and buy some glues. Anybody got any recommendations on glue? I think the last thing I glued, the plastic melted. So I'm assuming you have to use specific glue for these figures. But yes, it's all tabbed in quite nicely. Let's just see how it looks on Gravity Builder. And there we have him in all of his glory. You know what? The actual arm and shoulder section doesn't look that bad at all. I think it's actually the forearms, if anything, that lets this figure down. Yeah, apart from the fact that it's snapped, I think the grey is just too bright. They would have been better off going with a purple maybe, or maybe even a green, just to give us a very greenish forearm. I think purple would have been the better option, but who am I to judge? Maybe when they do their Bone Crusher as well, maybe we'll get some kind of grey thighs or silver thighs as well, just to make things a little bit different. But all in all, the range of motion is exactly the same. The ratchet in the shoulder is actually quite nice. Yeah, it's not super tight, but it does It does hold. It could probably do being a fraction tighter. But like I say, it's not dropping. This forearm is, of course, a problem, but the range of motion on that is pretty much exactly the same as what we get with the official. We can still move this joint out, but like I said, the ratchet is a fraction too loose. I could probably tighten that up with a screwdriver, possibly. I'm not entirely sure. I know there's a few fixes for these figures already, but for the price, if you're looking, especially for the kit bashers out there, if you're looking for something affordable that you can bash up and make yourself a pretty decent Devastator, then I can't recommend these enough. Be careful, be mindful that they are a cheap knockoff figure, and if you take all of that into consideration, then you could end up with a pretty decent looking Devastator at the end of it. So there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you found it useful, feel free to give it a big thumbs up, share, and subscribe. Until next time, from myself and the NBK-02, goodbye.